Just picking up on Sue's theme, what to do to be the most innovative aged care provider in Australia. Well, we think we are, don't we, Graham? Yeah. So we'll share some of that with you. So Graham, if you'd like to kick off.
All right, okay. Sorry for the sort of rushing in at the last minute, and it's always, I guess it's a trap. Never go on holidays because you always get dobbed in for something when you're away. But this is obviously a really great opportunity for Swan Care Group to foster development with some potential young leaders. So we're really excited about the program that we've come up with, and we hope that you'll get a sense of that excitement and come on board with us. But it's an opportunity at any of these events to give a bit of a brief overview of Swan Care Group. There's many in the audience I know about Swan Care Group and what we do, but there's some that don't. So I'd like to just give a 2-minute overview of where we've come from and what we are today. Swan Care Group is an aged care provider of care and accommodation. We started back in 1960 from very humble beginnings. I think we built 14 small cottages on a burnt out old pine plantation over in Bentley there. And that was our humble beginnings. A gentleman by the name of Richard Cleaver, Dr. Richard Cleaver, who was the federal member for Swan, that's where we got our name from, Swan Care Group, was the founder of Swan Care Group, and it was his vision in those early days to provide affordable accommodation, mainly for war widows really, which set us on the path. Richard had a strong vision about affordable housing, and we've maintained that vision as we've grown as well. But today we've got something like 600 independent living units on our Bentley site and 280 care places. We do the whole range of care, low care, high care, aging in place, and low care dementia. So we've developed a really good what we think an innovative business model on our site in Bentley. It encompasses the whole range of care, from independent living, where people can come and live an active, vibrant life, through to care, and more recently providing the care into the home through community care. So it's a bit of a one-stop shop for care and aged care, not unlike a lot of other providers in the room. And that seems to be the way the model's going now. You need to offer choice, and you need to offer quality choice to clients that are moving into a care environment. Our site, we have a chance to brag here, over in Bentley, is 15 hectares. It is the largest single site in Western Australia. We're not the largest provider by any means. We don't profess to be, and we really don't want to be. We like our size. We believe it gives us flexibility to move and be innovative in our decision making. But we are the largest single site, and that gives us a great opportunity to spread our economies and gain some real efficiencies in the way we operate. I would like to also say that we've got a couple of other little developments which have gone on, and we've got a small retirement village down in Australind, which has recently just won a Master Builders Association award for the most livable community, so we were pretty proud of that. So, and it won a couple of other awards as well. So we've got another site in Australind. Now, Julian did mention that I would talk briefly about our turnaround, and it has been pretty significant. But it's nothing that no one else who operates aged care isn't probably doing, or about to embark on, or has already embarked upon. Aged care, Daria mentioned it, with the living longer, living better coming through. There's a few storm clouds on the horizon, and lots of challenges ahead. So organisations that are getting themselves prepared now for those storm clouds are going to be able to survive better in the months, years to come. And Swan Care undertook a major top to bottom restructure, if you like, about two and a half years ago. And we looked at the entire organisation because we knew that we were in a little bit of trouble. There was a bit of pain, a little bit of hurt, and we needed to find the best way forward to make our business model sustainable. So, and it wasn't easy, and it was pretty tough. And running an aged care business isn't an easy gig. There's no doubt about it. It is a tough environment, and you do need to make hard choices. It's people think you're a not-for-profit, it's easy going, but in fact the challenges and decisions that you make are on a par with any major corporate decision that the St George Terrace big end of town people are making. In fact, it's probably tougher because you have that balance of worrying about your stakeholders, which are your residents, providing that care, but also generating enough money to provide that level of care that you need to provide. So it's a real tough balancing act, and we knew that, and we made some pretty tough decisions within the organisation. We did restructure. We aligned our business units. We recruited some specialists in specialist areas, something that I think others are doing now as well. But we employed a person just to look after our, I'll use the term ACFI. You know what ACFI is? Most of you would, yeah. We employed a specialist person totally dedicated to focusing on ACFI to generate, and ACFI is basically the money that we get from the government, to maximise that, to make sure we were getting the right amount to provide the right level of care that we wanted to provide. That in itself was probably one of the major catalysts in the turnaround growth. Other things we did, we employed people specialised in sales. You know, we've still got to sell our ILUs, and we've still got to sell people, if you like, to come into our organisation, into our care. So we employed 2 specialist people, one to look after sales for our independent living units, and we've put them on a total commission basis, so they don't sell, they don't make money. And we also employed a person dedicated to selling bonds. Sounds a bit harsh, but bonds are a lifeblood for aged care, and you need that capital money, and we employed a specialist person just to do that, again on a commission-based basis. Both of those two individuals have achieved outstanding success, and they have contributed a long way to the turnaround in the organisation. So some hard decisions to be made there, but it's a matter of reality. We also restructured, as I mentioned, but realigning the business models. My direct reports went from 9 down to 4, which is a huge realignment of the business. And we removed duplication of tasks, and we took on a really rigid approach to roster management. It's no surprise to know that wages are about 70% of the operating costs for any aged care provider. So if you don't keep a tough eye on those, then you're going to be in trouble. So get your income up through ACFI, really focus in on your costs, your staff costs. So we had a really rigid process of looking at our roster management, and that's paid dividends as well. So it's not rocket science in that regard. Get your income up, get your costs down, and you're starting to get halfway towards being sustainable. The other side of the coin was the culture and the organisation itself, and we did a lot of work in that, and we've really refocused ourselves on what we're about, and it's really about community for us, building that community, enriching the lives of everyone in our community, and we've spent a lot of time, and that's where the board comes in, because they were instrumental in actually refocusing the organisation and reshaping our strategy and direction so that we were focusing on what we were about, and that was about community. And in that process, and I'll just slowly lead into Julian here, we actually recruited on the board. We went out, used AICD, Australian Institute of Company Directors, who were great, by the way, for sourcing some really skilled directors. We specifically targeted some skill sets that we felt we needed. We recruited some really skilled directors in the area of strategy, finance, risk, and marketing, branding marketing. So those recruitments combined with Julian's been on the board for 4 years, so he's a relative newcomer. In fact, most of our boards have had a pretty good turnover in the last few years, and Julian's expertise in HR and strategy and business development has been a real key in us helping to reshape our focus. And as part of that, we developed a new strategic plan focusing on 3 key areas that we believe are our major challenges, major risk areas. Obviously one being sustainability, the other service delivery, that goes without saying, and the last is people. So we have a very tight strategic plan focused on those 3 pillars, and I think the results have been exceptional. They have been exceptional. I shouldn't say that I think they have been exceptional. We're now performing in the top 25% quartile of aged care providers in Australia. In fact, I'd have to say we're probably in the top 10% of performance now across Australia. We've halved our debt in the last 2.5 years, and it's a significant reduction. But above everything else, we've got a real focus on community and a real focus on long-term sustainability. So with that, I'll hand pass across to Julian, and thanks again for giving us a chance to catch up.
So I just wonder if anyone's got any questions before I go on. For Graham?
You may have touched on this, so forgive me if I'm asking you a question that you just talked about. You've obviously done a lot of work in terms of the structure of the organisation. Did you bring in an external agency to help you with that?
Glad you asked that question. Yes, we did actually, and I should have mentioned that. Because for us it was a case of couldn't see the forest for the trees, really. So yes, we did. We brought in an external, they were advisors really, consultants, experienced, and they didn't have aged care experience, which was great because we think we've got that. So we wanted people with fresh eyes to look at the business, and they worked with us for, near on 18 months. And were fantastic. They were tough, but fantastic, and they really challenged us. But the results, were certainly worth it. So yeah, I'm glad you asked that, and I did mean to mention that. Thanks.
Did you need to make some pretty tough calls from the advice they would have given you?
Yes. Yeah. Look, there were some hard calls to be made. There's no doubt about it, and that's part of the business. You do need to do that, and I think from time to time, all of you running businesses will be faced with making those tough calls. And tough but correct, we think.
All right, so I'll tell you about the board's journey over the last 3 years as part of this process. Our board's got 9 voting members, 2 executives and 2 resident representatives who are observers on the board. And that actually works really well for us. Doing the numbers, we've got, because I think, Sue, you mentioned that most of the board members were above 50, most of ours are below 50. So we've got 6 aged between 37 and 51, and 3 members who are retired who are over 65. Now, we didn't actually do that deliberately. It really came about because we recruited people through the AICD, and the sort of people that applied were mainly in their 40s. And that's certainly changed the board, the dynamics on the board, and it's part of the innovation that we're now driving through the organisation. So we've had 5 new board members in the last 2 years, and we've spent quite a bit of time integrating them and inducting them into the board. Yep. And the board's operating really cohesively now, and that's showing in the results that we're achieving. About 2 years ago, so Graham and I put up that we should have because we had 2 main subcommittees at that stage, finance and audit and the building and planning. And Graham and I put up, well, how about we set up a strategy committee? Because the finance and audit committee has really only got a 1-year time frame, looking at next year's budget. Building and planning committee, their time frames might be 3 years, looking at the next building project. So we weren't really looking at things outside of finance and building and with a longer time frame. So we put up to set up a strategy committee. There was a bit of resistance to start with. It was sort of, why do we need a strategy committee? What are they going to do? What are they going to talk about? But now it's been going for 2 years, and since I've been chair too, because I'm very focused on strategy, is that we now have it front and centre in the board meetings. So last night's board, we had a very good, very robust debate on a strategy issue. So now, as well as having this strategy committee that's looking long term with up to a 30-year time frame, it's also looking at following the aged care reform, trying to make sense of that, and also new business opportunities get talked about in the strategy committee first, so that we're setting it within our overall strategy before it then goes to the finance committee or the building committee. We've always had a remuneration subcommittee, but we've beefed that up now to a full governance subcommittee. And Graham, I don't know if you were earlier on, Sue had a list of 7 main functions of boards. So our governance committee really oversees 4 of those: the management of the CEO, performance of the CEO and also the board, so we have an annual board review process, the values and ethics, and also compliance. Compliance in terms of corporate regulation, because a lot of the compliance is done by management, but as a board we see our role there is looking at the corporate regulation. So we've now got the governance subcommittee operating as well. We have a budget for professional development of board members. So this year we've already sent one of our board members on the AICD Company Directors course. The Deputy Chair, Robin Watts, and I attended the AICD Not-for-Profit Forum, which is where I found out about this program, because Nikki got up and advertised it.
Didn't want to miss an opportunity.
That's right. Well, it worked because we're here today thanks to you getting up and saying that. We have an annual board planning day, and I'm very excited because this year, in our discussions even last night, it's very much focused on getting ready, all the subcommittees preparing stuff for that planning day, and it's a major focus for our strategic thinking for the year. And one last initiative is I have an annual, what I call an annual governance calendar, which is really my work plan. It has all the meetings for the year. It has what the priorities are that the board set for its work, and it's also got a list of tasks that we have to do. Like next week, Graham needs to come up with his KPIs to the governance committee. Okay, so very much, and I was thinking when you were asking that question, Sue, about innovation, I mean, it very much has to be driven from the top, from the board. If you don't have the board driving innovation, you know, the CEO can be trying really hard, but he's got to have the board's approval. Yeah. So we've set up the board so it is innovative, and that's now flowing through the organisation, and it's great to see what's happening down in the operational level as well. Graham briefed us last night on a program been working on for a few months to do with employee reward and recognition, and that's now been launched, and the board was really keen to find out about the details of that. Yeah. Okay, so really with all that scene setting, we'd now like to launch our trainee director opportunity. And how this came about was when we first heard about young leaders in aged care wanting to get people on boards, we initially balked at it because we thought, we're just actually in the middle of a process of getting a new board director. We can't see a way we can fit someone in. But then our Deputy Chair, Robin, came up with this idea of doing it as a trainee program. So we're looking at giving a person an opportunity to attend one meeting or one event a month over a 12-month period. It will include 2 meetings of the board, one when we have an external guest speaker. So in July we've got the CEO of St John of God Healthcare coming and speaking at our board, and that's another innovation that we have. We have outside guest speakers to our board 2 or 3 times a year. Attending at least one meeting of our 4 subcommittees, and for the person who joins us, whatever their particular interest is, then they'll attend all those subcommittee meetings, but they'll get to go to the other subcommittees as well. Our annual planning day in August, I've mentioned. One of the residents' meetings, so tag along with Graham to attend those. And there's some social events as well, so the residents put on a number of major social events during the year, which are always fun to go along to. And we have an annual board dinner in December. So it should be a great experience for someone. The person will also be looked after and mentored by either Graham, myself or Robin. And we're going to hand these out to anyone who's interested today. And we're asking for nominations by the Friday the 12th of April, and then it'll be starting in May. Okay, now for our question, so we actually put up our question as how do you think we should develop this program and to provide the maximum benefit to the participant, to the board and also to the organisation. So I might hand these out.
Yeah, absolutely. It's probably only about 30 or so there, Nikki.
Does anyone have a question for me?
You mentioned that you've got 2 residents sitting on your board, yet they haven't got voting rights. Why did you decide for those people not to have voting rights?
Well, that's a good question, and they often ask the reason why. And our response has always been we don't want to put them in a position that they could feel like they're being compromised with the other residents. We very rarely vote at our meetings anyway, so that the issue of voting is probably a nebulous one anyway. But the fact that they're residents, for them to have a vote, they also agree that it could put them in a compromising position, particularly if there's a vote if ever there was a vote on an issue that was really tenuous and difficult. They can sort of step away from that. They have a large degree of influence on the board, and their role there is to really provide that grounding factor. So it makes the other members of the board feel, it makes them understand why they're there. But the issue of voting was more about not putting them in a position of compromise with other residents. So.
Your board members are all volunteers, are they?
Yes. We get a small fee, but it's really just to cover expenses.
Can I just ask, would you anticipate that this participant eventually comes onto your board or some other aged care board? Is that what you would hope for?
We think definitely.
Possibly on our board.
Yeah, possibly. We're nearly full. But we hope that this program, with the experience that they get, would set them up for, if not our board, at least another aged care board. We'd like to see this as almost like a scholarship type thing, running an annual program, and every year we could get a new person coming through and open their eyes up to what aged care is all about, if they can't get on our board, they'd walk hopefully straight into another aged care operators board. That would be the goal.
So you don't see it as a replacement for a board member, you don't see it as an ongoing position, with the same rights and the rest of the other board members? Eventually, or?
Well, possibly. If one of our existing members resigned this year, we'd certainly look at that.
Yeah.
But we're not anticipating any vacancies in the near future.
How are you promoting it to find candidates?
Well, it has to come from the group,
From
doesn't
the
it?
group,
20?
yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, so
So,
there's 20 people in the group.
So we're working in with the Young Leaders program, and that was the whole idea of it. It's our way of sort of being part of it, but also to me it's a bit of a win-win. I hope
Yeah,
it is anyway.
it's fantastic. I mean, that's one of the big outcomes for us in the project is to get these young people onto.
Yeah. And look, to be honest, there's no reason why other operators, providers couldn't do the same program, and it could become like a scholarship, traineeship program, if you like, for directors, young directors looking to move into aged care. Other operators can do the same program as well.
What are we defining as young?
Good question. I think it's
under
we had this
35.
discussion at the board meeting last night. Young under
But it
35.
does become relative, doesn't it?
We heard a new description last night at the board meeting. The old. Apparently, old is over 85. There you go. You have old, but then you have the old.
okay, so just quickly, we've only got a couple of minutes. Anybody who'd like to put anything on the map here?
So do you want us to do it individually or?
I don't know. This is all new to me.
Yeah, and I think we just keep it open during the day. So you've got all the different passwords, and if you've got any further ideas on how they can help design this program, I definitely encourage you. The password for this one's Dreamy Space Bear. So that's how you get into this map. And again, we'll keep these maps open for the next week as well. So if you want to go away, have a chat to your organisations and just keep adding onto this group map, we can definitely do that.
Okay.
All right. Well, I want to say thank you so much, Julian and Graham, for not only coming and speaking today, but offering this program. I know that the email came through with this idea that you had at the day of the last convention, and for me it was a really great finish to that day. I love your honesty in terms of how you said you first looked at this program and you thought, what can we do? maybe it's a bit too hard. And I'm sure that a lot of other organisations are in the same sort of situation. How do we really engage? And today is about really exploring those really practical strategies, and I think you've been really innovative by coming up with this idea. And really leading the pack, and I hope other organisations do take this on as a really practical strategy that boards can take on, because it does give our young people such a valuable experience. We can only do so much in the training room with these young people. They really need to then get into the boardroom and experience it for themselves, and I think that experience will go towards a lot in then taking on the next step of actually taking on a board directorship role. So thank you so much for your involvement in this program and putting this program forward, and I look forward to helping you make it as successful as possible. So please, thank you.